Hello, I'm Terry Brett from Pyramid Gallery in York, and with me is Ben Arnup. We are about to open a show tonight, and there's a public opening tomorrow on Saturday the 9th of September. It's a show by the living members of the Arnup family, who are Ben Arnup, Tobias Arnup, who is a painter and art therapist, his wife Vanessa Pooley, who is a sculptor, and Ben's sister Hannah Arnup, who is a potter. And they're all part of the Arnup family, which lived in Holtby. Sally was a sculptor, Mick was a potter and painter, and this is a kind of celebration of Mick's birth centenary. So he was born 100 years ago this year. So Ben, lovely display of pottery.
Yeah.
And these have just come out the kiln, or
yep,
maybe
mostly,
not all of them.
Most of the monochrome ones have come out this week.
So this is a very new effect. Just describe how you've come to that.
Well, you cut into it, and it ends up being inlaid because I then put slip into the grooves to give you the drawing that is required, because I'm interested in the illusion. So therefore, so that then, and you've got the same thing on the back, which means you've got a more austere version of the same thing. But so there's definitely two faces to my work. And they're all optical illusions. Stoneware, using a range of clays. I've used black clays, grey clays and white clays. When I say grey, they come out brown.
And things that we've not seen many of are dishes.
Yeah.
All dishes that can be
hang them on the wall.
On the wall.
Yeah, and you can therefore get a different effect from that.
And in the next shot, we're going to swing around to the other side of the gallery, where we have one on the wall next to Tobias's pictures, and below we've got Hannah's pots. So if you come into the shot then, and what can we say about Tobias's pictures?
Tobias studied at Camberwell and ended up teaching in Camberwell. So he was part of what we might call the Black Line movement, which actually did do work with this very described way of working, so that you've got colour separation by the drawing components in the painting. He's still doing that, but it's evolved on, so it's more subtle now. And but he was a very good painter, and has now been producing new work, which is I'm glad to see, because when you disappeared into art therapy, you've got a different line. And then there's Hannah's work.
And Hannah. So Hannah's over in, she's made these in Ballymorris, her pottery in Northern Ireland. Sorry, Ireland.
Yeah, it's in County Galway, County Clare. Talk sense, Ben. That's in County Clare, and she's doing pouring patterns on these large dishes. So they're very impressive. And there'll be some other work of hers.
There's others in the cabinets in the other room when we go there. But just if we just scan down here, we've got one of Vanessa's bronzes, which is an upright figure. So Vanessa's based in Norwich. She's married to Tobias, and she's been doing this style for many years.
Yes.
Very successful.
The female figure is her focus. And then some of it has been also very maternal, so you've got mother and child.
In fact, there's probably...
There's
one with a baby.
There's one, yes. So there's also a mixture of materials here, in that this is a ceramic which may well be an original, and then there'll be some bronze cast from it.
So we'll come into the back room now, and there's a significant piece in this bronze, which is called New World, and that's by Vanessa Pooley. Very pleased to have that on display. And more of Tobias's work are on the walls. I think he's got 15 in this show altogether. Vanessa and Tobias will be here at the opening on Saturday the 9th, which is tomorrow. More of Vanessa's stoneware pieces, which are one-off, and small bronzes. and you're just on to a lovely piece here. This is one of Sally's. So Ben, what do we know about? I don't recognise what sort of dog that is actually.
I'm not sure, but it's a female, and what a typical thing of Sally is to produce an animal doing a movement it would regularly do. She would actually just have the animal around and have it run around with her, and she would just then notice the way the particular animal moved. And if I play with this, you can see he's swinging very slightly as he walks forward, and that's actually quite fun because she did many figures where she would just have a degree of movement in the thing instead of it being just a static stood/sat animal. And also sometimes with a bit of attitude.
So that piece is for sale. We haven't put a label on it yet. That's something we've got to do in a minute. And there are some pieces from the Holtley Studios that we've purloined for this show. There's a couple of photographs of Mick and Sally on the wall. And we have a collection of Mick Arnup's pots. All of these in the camera shot are for sale. And we have some others that are just here for display.
I'd like to point out the fundamental starting point for Mick with these is that he mixed a Leachian tradition with English medieval construction so that he would actually therefore use the different, this is Japanese based, the Leachian tradition is fundamentally foreign in its origin because he borrowed the Japanese hand building throwing technique, but mixed with that stuff you could see in the Yorkshire Museum, which was sort of big medieval jugs and things like that, so with very vigorous technique. And then later on he would do quite a lot of painting on ceramics because he was also a painter. So he did ceramics and painting at the Royal College, and therefore I would just like to mention the sorts of things where he would actually get into doing a Boadicea or some other figure, like when actually dealing here, notice that in fact he did a lot of plant drawing. In his painting was doing a lot of plant drawing, and this was easy for him to transfer into an illustrating on a pot.
That is a beautiful piece.
High-fired stoneware in reduction, which means oxygen deprived, so you get a lot of the clay texture comes out through the clay, and you just have to look at that to see what I mean. As I hold that pot upside down, the mottled effect of the way the clay oxides, the metal, mainly iron oxide, is pulled out from the clay, texturing the surface.
And these pots were made roughly when? What sort of period?
It varies. We have dated them because he did date them. And they start at around 1975 mainly, and so the earliest one I think here is 81, and then it goes on through till about 2010. That sort of thing.
Yeah, and when you were growing up, Ben, were you doing stuff on the wheel with Mick?
Not a great deal.
No.
He would sit there making something on the wheel, and I'd be making it in a completely different way right next door to him, trying not to get splattered.
So you were into slab building.
Yes, that's right. He didn't understand what I was doing. He fully explained what he was doing, and it was all, you know, he had a very positive way in which he thought about academically and sociologically. He understood what he was up to. But I was doing something completely differently and off the wall to him, and it didn't make any sense to him. But I'm glad to say he was incredibly supportive as a father, or I don't think we'd have been in this line of business at all. And I mean all of us.
Yeah,
you know.
It's wonderful to be able to reflect on that. And just behind we have a portrait of Sally done by Mick in 1964 in oils, and a painting of a thistle. These are not for sale.
But you'll notice the thistle there is definitely idiomatic of what he was doing in this other teasel that he has got on the plate.
And there's a couple of others here that aren't for sale, they're just on, and I think this was brought in because it related to what he was doing in the painting. On the plinth here, there's a couple of a hen and a cockerel which were modelled by Sally, sculpted by Sally, but then cast by Hannah. And in the cabinets we've got more of Hannah's lovely bowls. There's a sgraffito bowl at the top here, which is a technique that she's quite well known for, but most of the ones we've got are glazed decoration. Oh, there's another sgraffito up here as well. It's beautiful. So, the show starts on Saturday the 9th. It runs until 30th of October, and we look forward to greeting you if you can come into the gallery. Thank you.